We have made it to week 18 in the National Football League season. Well, Tim, I don't know about you. I don't feel very sentimental about this week because I'm annoyed by all of this transition at quarterback, reading Adam Schefter's long list of names, or Ian Rappaport, whichever NFL reporter you turn to. But it's a cluster, and it will be fun to watch unfold on Sunday.
Yeah, Glash, I'll give you a little, the good and the bad. I guess the bad is that we don't really celebrate a new year because football is our year. We go by a different calendar than the rest of the world. Us football guys, us gamblers. But on the other side, you're saying, oh look, hey, they're tweeting all this stuff, all these bad quarterbacks. As a college football guy too, at least they tell us in the NFL. I mean, you turn on these bowl games, it's like, oh, who's playing, who's not. Even the guys in uniform, you don't even know if they're playing. So I appreciate and be thankful, at least in the NFL, they do tell us sort of what's going to happen.
It's true. It's true. If you've been with us every Wednesday during the season, thank you for being here. It's our last happy hour of the regular season coming up. The usual suspects on this show, Sean Koerner for On the Rocks. We get a little creative with Koerner this week. Concepts to understand and keep in mind when you're betting week 18 in the NFL. Bar trivia with our man Evan Abrams. Will he stump us one more time in the regular season? Something tells me, too, when it comes to trends, we're going to hear something about incentives. That will come up. Raybon and Stuckey for Mix in a Water from some fan-submitted tweets with the bets that the people are making this week. So be sure to get involved with the trivia later on in the show as it pertains to the YouTube chat. So be on the lookout there. Happy Hour is presented by our friends at Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else every day. They power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. They don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky. Present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. T's and C's and restrictions apply. All righty, Tim. Before we get to our first guest, Nick Giffen of the Predictive Analytics team, instead of who's on notice, we're going to be a little more positive. Yeah, you're right. Calendar year for us mentally hasn't changed all that much because the football season is still going on. But with a new year being here, why don't we raise a toast to someone we're proud of, someone who exceeded expectations and tickled our fancy in 2023. Who would you like to toast to in the NFL season?
Well, Glash, I'd like to toast to, we talked a lot about quarterbacks this year. Gardner Minshew, he was filling in for Anthony Richardson, who was out for the season after a shoulder injury sustained in week 5. And now the Colts here, they're, control their own destiny. Win, and they're in, just about 99%. And I have just a certain appreciation for backup quarterbacks, a journeyman like Minshew, who, it's funny. It's not like his parents call the coach and say, why am I not playing? I should be starting over this rookie. I'm a senior. It's just, I have an appreciation for guys who hang around, who wait for their opportunity, do all the right things, and boom, he's probably, not really proving it to himself because he's the guy, with the stash and everything that, has a lot of moxie and self-belief, it looks like, but, proving it to a lot of other people. And he's going to make a lot of money in this league and, job for life of being a backup quarterback wherever he lands and as, pretty capable starter. So I have an appreciation for guys like that. And there's a few of them, but Gardner Minshew has done it for basically the entire season.
Yeah, that was the theme of the year, right? Quarterbacks having to sub in due to injuries, whether it be stars that were already established or young quarterbacks like an Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. And Minshew has no question established himself as the best, probably, backup quarterback going in the league. So similar direction to a team that could have very well gone off the rails because of what happened with this acquisition at quarterback and how would they pivot and make it all work. And I think Kevin Stefanski, who very well might win Coach of the Year in the NFL, he is someone I would like to raise a toast to fourth quarterback this year being Joe Flacco. You sign him off the couch, but going back even deeper in the season, you lost Nick Chubb for the year. You've had a very great defense as an offensive coach, yet you're still about a top 10 offense. You're right there. You're a top 10 rushing attack with Chubb out. Jerome Ford has been their go-to back. Kareem Hunt as a nice complementary piece. And you're making it work with a fourth quarterback and you have 10 wins. That's incredible. A 10-plus win season. You're going to win your, you're not going to win your division because Baltimore was a wagon all year, but you're going to be in the playoffs. And this team was loaded just a couple of years ago at receiver, running back, and Baker Mayfield couldn't overcome it. And with a fourth quarterback, Kevin Stefanski has the Browns playing at a high level. And I don't think you want to play them. I don't. And now, look, it might be mid-January and they just puke on themselves because it finally catches up to him and the backup quarterback thing doesn't work. But Flacco also just seems very well liked. That Jets post game was revealing last Thursday. The Jets players missed him. He's come in and said all the right stuff. Stefanski hasn't made excuses. I give a lot of coaches in this league. Coaching in the NFL gets a lot of crap. And some of it's deserved, but some of it, these Steichen and Indy, Stefanski, Kevin O'Connell. I know they lost the other night to the Packers, but some of these coaches, I'm like, good job. You could have easily just said, yep, we're done. We're going to try to go to the top of the draft and our season's over. We hear that all the time. 0-3, 0-4. You're done. Kevin Stefanski, nice job. A lot of props to that.
The Browns were always a quarterback away, Glash.
Yeah, that's still true. Time to get into the Action Network luck rankings for the final week of the regular season. Our analyst grade teams using what's called luck percentage. Those of you that are new, they use luck percentage, which is the difference between expected and actual win percentage. Unlucky teams are often undervalued. There's a large luck disparity between them and their opponents. There's your explainer if you are new to the show. Nick Giffen is here, part of our predictive analytics team. All right, Nick, last one. I'm kind of sad because I've enjoyed these segments with you and I've enjoyed the back and forth and I've enjoyed you educating me, believe it or not. So what gross game are you possibly liking this week? And what maybe is identified as a luck matchup?
Well, we're going to go, like you said, gross, and seen a lot of talk on, I'm never going to bet this team. I've bet on them all year, not going to bet on them now. But that's when they hit, right? When you finally refuse because you've been betting them on all year, and I'm done with them, that's when they hit. And that is going to be the Carolina Panthers as the unluckiest team in the NFL against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are the fourth most lucky team in the NFL per our Action Network luck rankings. And so that's a difference of 28. And you might say, well, Carolina's eliminated, why would I bet on them, et cetera. But hey, they don't have any motivation to tank. Their motivation should be normal. Bryce Young is still going to try to make a name for himself, prove himself in the NFL. And Carolina could eliminate their division rival by giving them a loss here. If Tampa Bay loses, they are out because either the Saints or the Falcons will get in over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they both can't lose that game. At least at minimum, they'll tie, which would give one of them, if not both of them, a better record than Tampa Bay. So Carolina's motivation is normal. So if I use games in the last week of the season where the unlucky team has normal motivation like Carolina has here, or high motivation, to make the playoffs, something like that. In other words, not tanking like the Bears were last year to get that number 1 draft pick, or not resting players like several teams are this week, those that are locked into certain seeds. So if I use unlucky teams with normal motivation, they are in the final week of the regular season 6-3-1 against the spread. If the luck gap is at least 25%, and we have a luck gap of 26.6% here, and they're 3-1-1 against the spread in the final week of the regular season if the luck difference is 24 or more. And that actually jumps to 3-0-1 if the luck difference is at least 26 places. And we got, 28 places of difference here. So I know those are small sample sizes, 6-3-1 or 3-1-1. But if we add it into our late season trend after week 13, teams with a luck difference of 24 or more are a combined 24-3-2 against the spread. And again, that's removing one game where a team was tanking. And that was last year. The Chicago Bears were an unlucky team in that game, but they had reason to tank to get the #1 draft pick. And, their former coach, Lovie Smith, on the other side helped them out there as well by having, I think it was Houston, win that game. There was no reason for the Bears to cover there. So that game has been removed. But other than that, 24-3-2 against the spread late season for unlucky teams with a luck difference of at least 24 places in the luck rankings. Also, get this, 70% of the bets. So the public loves the Buccaneers, 70% of bets on the Buccaneers, but 60% of the money is coming in on the Panthers. That tells you the bigger money, the professional money coming in on the Carolina Panthers. We also have a pro system from our pro subscription that you can get at Action Network. And dogs after a blowout has a 58% win rate and 11% ROI, and the Carolina Panthers fit that system. And obviously, the luck rankings are another system there. So this line moved from 6 on open on Sunday after the games were played all the way down to 4. Then got back up to 5.5, and now it's kind of settled in at 4.5, 5. So definitely like taking it in that kind of 4.5 to 5.5 range where we're not really crossing any key numbers. I got it at 5 myself. I saw it go back to 5.5. I waited. I was like, maybe we can get a key number of 6 since it got pushed back up, but then it went back the other way. So I grabbed it at 5 before it moved to 4.5, but certainly like it 5, 4.5, whatever you want to take it there. Carolina Panthers as the unlucky team.
We'll call it the dab tab. Dogs after blowout. I love it.
That's right.
I love how you wrote it in our notes. And I would imagine you'd want to get this sooner rather than later. I have a feeling this could come down as we get closer to Sunday. So
I don't know. I would kind of object. I feel like a lot of people will wake up on Sunday and be like, well, the Bucks have to win. I mean, I can see both sides of it, Glash. There's been some funky line movement on Sunday mornings and getting up till kickoff. A lot of those parlays, Glash.
I've said it a couple times. This is a few years ago now, but this game reminds me a lot of Jaguars Colts. And the Colts had to beat the lowly Jags, and the Colts absolutely laid an egg, and the Jaguars had nothing to play for, and they smoked Carson Wentz and the Colts. This game reminds me of that a lot.
Yeah, well, Nick, also too, I would say, I know you have a great track record of when Glash and I, don't like your pick, but to me, you talk about your window here. Like sometimes you're like, hey, if the gap is between, 7 and 9, I like it even better, whatever. This is that for me. This is my window. This is ugly, but just ugly enough that I'm game to play the Panthers here. I'm definitely convinced. So I don't know. Maybe that's not a good thing for you because it's better when we call you an idiot and then you get to come on here and troll us.
Never called him an idiot.
I never we never did.
Here's an interesting stat. Okay. In terms of offensive success rate, Carolina's 3rd worst in the NFL, but everybody loves Baker Mayfield. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are actually in the bottom 7, I think it is. So I've 6th in my data, but it always depends on how you count each specific play. But in terms of rush and pass plays specifically, Tampa Bay 6th worst in the NFL in offensive success rate.
It's a very good point to bring up Baker. This is very redeeming for him too. Like he's had a great, he had a great November and December, but if he doesn't play well, that impacts contract, and you might only get another 1-year deal if it's in Tampa or somewhere else. That's another fascinating element. You have a luck under for us that you have identified for this week too.
Oh yeah, I love this one. The Sunday night game, the final game of the regular season, Miami and Buffalo under 50. This game has a luck total of -5.7. And we can count this as a regular game as well. Both teams should be pretty motivated to win. It'll help getting a home game or getting into the playoffs, those kinds of things, winning the division. So we can definitely consider this a valid luck under. Luck unders are 29, 18, and 1. That's 61.5% this year to the under, and 123, 84, and 3. Almost 60%, 59.3% over the last 6 years in more than a 200 game sample size. So, I think this under makes a lot of sense. Tyreek Hill re-aggravated that ankle injury. So, he's not 100%. Jalen Waddle, is he going to be 100%? Is he even going to play? Tua got a shoulder injury right there at the end of the last game, minor shoulder injury. The Bills defense is getting healthier. So certainly on the Miami side of the ball, they might struggle to put up some points. And, I think on the Bills side of the ball, they've been running the ball a little bit more lately as well. So I do like the under here. 75% of the bets are to the over, but 91% of the money is to the under. So just a massive pros versus Joes split here versus the over and the under. So I certainly like this, but guys, let's be real. The bet I really want to hit is for Tua Tagovailoa to lead the league in passing yards at the end of the regular season. Right now, he is 170 or so yards to the good, ahead of Brock Purdy, who won't be playing, I think is what we have learned.
Correct.
So,
Darnold's in. Yep.
Feeling good about that. Dak Prescott and I think Dak Prescott and Jared Goff would be the major threats. But again, Goff doesn't necessarily have the most incentive to play here either. So I really just got to fade Dak Prescott in this one.
Yeah, move it up and down the field, but no points.
I gave it 22-1 on Happy Hour in our pre-season show.
I know.
That was the show.
Why you should pay attention to Happy Hour.
That's about as good of endorsement as you can give. You know, it's I don't mind the under with a lot of the gymnastics with who's in, who's out, how's this going to play out, who has to win, who doesn't have to win. You know what? Let's take an under. Let's just figure. Fine, let's do that. And you actually have one more for us as well, Nick.
Yeah, so there is one more luck under. And I haven't played this one yet. The other two I have, the matchup and the Miami Buffalo game, but this is between Dallas and Washington. Under 46 right now would be the total. And this has a luck total of minus 8.3. So we are getting a little bit into that potential reverse trend here where, these teams just actually go over more than expected. So potentially that could be the case, but we are tracking both big and sharp money on the under. 75% of the money is to the under, despite around only half of the bets go into the under. I think it's like 53% to the under right now. So certainly some professional money coming in on the under here. And another trend that favors the under is when divisional teams meet for the second time and the game is a luck under, the unders are 20 and 10. So that's 66.7, 2/3 of the time it does go under. So even bigger than those 60% trends we're seeing, 61% trends we're seeing around just general luck unders. So more like 2/3 of the time these games go under when it's divisional teams meeting for the second time. These teams, like I said, met on Thanksgiving. And in that game, they combined for 55 points, but that definitely included plenty of garbage time. There was a Kevontae Turpin garbage time touchdown. There's the DaRon Bland record-tying interception return for a touchdoan.
That game never ended, Nick. That game never ended.
It really didn't. It never ended. So, a lot of late garbage time points. We had a 49.5 expected score, total score from that game. So, it certainly is higher than we have it now. But I do think there was just a lot of garbage time implications here. This has moved from 44.5 all the way up to 46 recently. So there still is hope for this getting pushed up even further before I would end up taking the under. So that's kind of why I'm holding out here. And I do want to say, DaRon Bland is 200 to 1 to win the Defensive Player of the Year. He was the Defensive Player of the Month in November. He has the NFL record for pick sixes in a season. And if he gets one more defensive touchdown, he will break the single season record for defensive touchdowns because he also have to add in fumbles, right? If Myles Garrett, who's the favorite, how valuable is he to the Cleveland Browns? That defense would probably be really darn good even without him. TJ Watt is in the top 3. They might not even make the playoffs, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the only other person in the top 3 in odds is his teammate Micah Parsons. So I don't hate a little sprinkle on a 200 to 1 flyer on DaRon Bland, Defensive Player of the Year, especially knowing it happened in a primetime game, Thanksgiving, and then the last game of the regular season. If he sets that record, it'll be the most recent thing on voters' minds.
Yeah, okay. I mean, Glass, remember we talked to Stuckey and Raybon about when someone mixed in a water over Bland interception or pick, something like that, pick 6. And we were talking about it's basically, a long shot parlay. So Nick, here you're essentially betting 200 to 1 that he has a great defensive game,
and we get Sam Howell at quarterback instead of Jacoby Brissett, which I think helps that. So,
yes.
Yeah. So
Really
just a
quick before we
little
go,
tidbit there.
we got to go to Koerner, but quickly give us a plug for the playoffs and how the luck rankings will be impacted, what we can look forward to, and how that all plays into the coming weeks.
Yeah, we could have, if the Carolina Panthers do upset Tampa Bay and the Saints win, or the Falcons win, we may have a luck matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles in the wild card weekend.
Right.
Remember, Brendan, I talked about those Saints. So yeah, we could have a luck matchup, but we'll be doing the luck rankings like usual. What we found last year is there were a lot of luck overs in the playoffs, and a bunch of them hit. So we'll be doing the usual thing. And
good deal.
We having some bet what happens lives during the playoffs as well.
Beauty. Excellent. Nick Giffen, thank you.
Nick's the best. Well, Sean Koerner, he's been backstage stretching out, getting ready to tell us, who's on the rocks, or kind of a different spin to it. Guys that are inactive that we're going to have to figure out, what that means for their team, what that means for their motivation. Again, feels like bowl season all over again. Lamar Jackson, he's not going to play. They already clinched number 1 seed. Christian McCaffrey, he's not going to play. His team already clinched the number 1 seed in the other conference. Patrick Mahomes, they're locked into the 3 seed in the AFC. Not going to see him. Same for Matthew Stafford. The Rams, they're locked into the 6th seed, so you won't see Matt Stafford in this one. And just to make the picture a little clearer for us, we bring in Sean Koerner, the guy who, I'm getting ready for some sort of like Ray McLeod under or something like that. But he's going to help us with, kind of the overall picture and how to attack this, because I'll be honest, Koerner, I feel a little square when I'm just like, oh yeah, bet the guy with the incentives, or, this guy's not going to play, so that means this is going to happen. I feel like you kind of have to throw everything out, and week 18 is its own animal when handicapping. So I'll toss you the rock here and let you cook and just help me figure it all out.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't have any hard, fast rules for week 18. I treat every situation differently. And it's one of my favorite betting weeks because it's like the perfect blend of preseason craziness, which I'm a preseason degen, with some matchups that have some serious playoff implications. I mean, they're basically playoff games. So it's a great blend of the two, and a ton of betting opportunity, I think. And there's like really 3 concepts that are pretty unique to week 18. The first one is, you mentioned it, teams that have already clinched, the 1 seed or the 3 seed or 5 seed, whatever, they're going to probably be resting their starters. And we've already seen that with a couple teams already resting their starting quarterback. They might rest some key wide receivers, defensive players, things like that. So when that happens, it's a case by case basis. Sometimes it's almost impossible to quantify. Like if the Ravens rule out all their starters, it's hard to actually quantify how valuable that is. So when it comes to that, I think the best situation, I think, where there could be an opportunity, again, this isn't an official play yet or anything, it's the Lions, who have like over a 95% chance of getting the 3 seed. They have like really little incentive to play their starters the full game. Maybe they want to get them out there for a half just to get, some reps and things like that. So that's something where I might consider taking the Lions in the first half as opposed to the full game. I think they're like -2.5 for the first half. That kind of reminds me of preseason, where you're going to have like maybe the first or second unit playing the 3rd string, something like that. So again, that's not, saying I'm taking the Lions, but there could be some situations that pop up like that, where we know the starters might play the first half and then they're going to play the backups in the second half. So that's something to look out for. The second one is a little bit more sneaky. And it's, teams that may pull the starters based on the score of another game. So
Right.
An example of that this week would be, the Eagles. They can improve their seeding with the win, but if the Cowboys win, they're pretty much locked in. There's nothing they could do. So the Cowboys are, nearly 14-point favorites at the Commanders. If it looks like they're blowing them out, that's when Sirianni might just, rest a guy like Jalen Hurts. So I'm thinking, if the Cowboys get up early, let's say their in-game money line gets -1,200 or better. If sportsbooks are offering, Jalen Hurts passing yard prop, I would be hammering the under just in hopes that, he might get the quick hook. So there's things like that. Again, I'm not saying I'm officially doing that. We might have more information later in the week, and the markets might adjust, things like that. But that's something I do look out for, and I have done in the past. And the
quickly,
third,
real quick, to jump in on that too. Just the part about Philly to me, and Tim, if you've got thoughts too, like they got to get it right too, right? Like that would be my one concern. Like the Eagles are not playing well, so like maybe they need this game as like a let's figure it out and get right game. I know that you'd rather keep everyone healthy. I realize that's the number one priority, but that would be where I would pause with Philly, because if they were playing well and they could just give the game away and they feel confident in what they're doing offensively, they don't have an identity right now. So I wonder if they're really going to take that game seriously, start to finish, because they got to feel right going into to the playoffs. That would be my only concern too.
Yeah, I would add, if I really wanted to make a buck, I would be, analyzing every single press conference with a highlighter out and, what does this guy say? Did he drop a little nugget? But again, that's too much for me. I'm just going to, probably like play Nick's 3 picks and get on with it. So
I know. Yeah. like AJ Brown had something today about how if he makes his body language after a play, and he got like this diva wide receiver commentary against him, but his whole point was, I'm just trying to motivate my teammate. Just little stuff like that has popped up here with Philly the last handful of weeks. So anyway, continue. I just wanted to throw that in there in case that's something that's again, like you said, Koerner, you nailed it. You've got to look at every game as its own entity and not just put it all in a blender. So,
and a lot of it's speculation. If I'm catching myself speculating too much on something, I'm not going to bet it. Like I don't
feel
think
like
that's
this
a
is
reason
August.
to bet. Now when it comes to preseason, I bet on my speculation. That's a bit different. But right now, thinking they'll pull Hurts is pure speculation. You made a good point. Maybe they do want them to put up so many points or touchdown drives, they leave them in. Yeah. So that's something that I could change my mind later in the week. But last but not least, I think an important thing to talk about is just week 18 when it comes to player props. We have, incentives, milestones, potential records that could be broken, things like that. And I think the market has done a much better job of baking those in. So there's been a lot of Twitter discussion, I should put it, on these. And it's a complicated thing with everything. Every use case is different. Just because the guy has incentives doesn't mean you take his overs. There could be value going the other way. I think the best example for this week specifically, I think, is DeAndre Hopkins. He has some very attainable incentives where if he gets 7 or more receptions, he gets $250,000. If he gets 49 receiving yards, he gets $250,000, and 2 touchdowns is another $250,000. All 3 of those are within striking distance for Hopkins, and they're not playing for anything. I think in those situations, players are more likely to collude, to get somebody their incentives. So that's something I'll be looking out for. And again, I'm not saying, I'm just going to take his over on receptions. If they float his line at like 6.5 and the over's minus 200, I might actually take the under. I don't know yet, but we have to see the market before we actually assess, what we're going to do about it. So I do factor these in, when I'm making projections or seeing, what I potentially want to bet on. But until we actually see lines, I can't say which way I'm going one way or the other.
And Koerner, you always do. I appreciate you always giving us a peek behind the curtain and saying, "Hey, I might do this, but I might not." I'm a human. Like sometimes I use my speculation. So I really appreciate that. And I'll ask just one more question before we let you go. Have you seen? Been doing this for a long time. Have you seen? Really in the last 5 years, maybe 2 years, the books really getting sharper on this kind of stuff. Do you remember a younger Koerner, like being able to lick his chops over, missed prices with incentives? Like, was there a time you remember it kind of changed? Like, synopsis of the history of it.
Yeah, it's been very recent. I would say it's very sharp now. They're well aware of all these incentives and all the chatter on Twitter. So when the lines are posted, that's going to be all baked in. But I would say just even like a few years ago, whenever it was Justin Jefferson's rookie season, I think he needed it was something like 118 yards to break it. And I remember telling Raybon, I'm setting his line at 114.5, something crazy like that. And they floated like a more normal line. It was like 77.5 receiving yards. And I just hammered, I don't know what words I can say here, the crap of the over there. And he blew it away. So those things are different, like setting a record like that. And I think it was a meaningless game. And we have that with Puka Nacua this week, who needs 29 yards, I think it is. So he might play until he gets that. And I was saying, I'm looking for his prop to be around, say, 33, 34.5 yards. I think that's a fair line. So there's definitely situations like that where they have gotten better, but there still might be some value on some of these.
Look at that. Fair enough. What a great question by me. We get a great story. That's Glash. That's how you do it here. That's how pro
Hard
does
hitting
it.
journalism. That's good.
Sean Koerner, you're the man. We really appreciate it. Good luck. I can picture you already in my head with your phone out, with the refreshing of the live stats and the personnel on the field. It's really a treat to watch. So I appreciate it, and good luck in week 18.
Thanks, you too.
I'm telling you, that really felt like August. Just the speculation line. I'm like, oh my God, we just started the show and it's week 18. Bills Dolphins is your Sunday night game this week. This is for a lot going on here. There's a chance at the division. There's a chance at just absolute chaos. Totals at about 50 points. We heard Nick Giffen give out the luck under on this game. The look ahead line was Bills plus 1.5, and the Bills right now are -3. With 72% of the cash on Buffalo -3, and the money is coming in on under 49.5. All righty, it's our final bar trivia segment of the regular season with Mr. Evan Abrams, our Director of Research and Media at Action Network. I am prepared, Evan, to get stumped again. Tim and I feel since the first half of the year, we've kind of come alive a little bit. But you've got not only the trivia question, which everyone in the chat will be very excited for to guess right, but also some trends for us. So why don't you lay out the question as you always do?
Sure. So question, and obviously it's connected to the Patriots, because how could we do this show without a trivia question connected to New England? But so name the last Jets quarterback to beat the Patriots straight up. It's 15 consecutive losses, tied for the 4th longest streak versus a division foe since the merger. My question to you, just name the QB. Who is the last guy to come away with a W against the Pats? That's it.
Tim, if we don't get this right, that's embarrassing because we should know that. And I don't right now off the top of my head. Actually, I think I know who it is. No, I do know.
I hope you do. I wanted to keep it simple. We're entering the playoffs. We're going to have some fun, maybe a little different stuff for playoff trivia. So this was an easy one. New England, hopefully, listen, what's going to happen this week, and I'll call it right now, Jets are going to win the game because they're going to ruin their draft position and they're going to end the streak all in one fell swoop. It's going to be just a perfect Jets win.
I don't think it's happening.
I disagree. Yeah, I as much as I've been a Patriots hater and as abysmal they've been to watch, this is very Patriots. The only team they've been able to beat, even with this, incredible, disgusting couple of years it's been, is they still beat the New York Jets. That's what they do. So
last second field goal, friendly bet. Let's go.
Could be Bill's last game in Foxborough. Bill's last game as coach.
He ain't losing to the Jets. All right,
and
I want them to lose. Let's move on.
Let's move on. So let's talk about week 18 for a second. So week 18 is just a completely different season. There's so many different angles to bet. There's 2 notes I just want to say before we get into some of the parlays we're going to talk about in a second. So dogs in week 17 and 18, 3rd worst week in the last 20 years. So just don't plainly bet underdogs this week. Again, Koerner talked about it a few minutes ago. Pick your situations. Also, teams with a better win percentage, also underdogs in week 17, 18, 23% straight up, -33% ROI last 20 years. So the Chiefs sitting Mahomes, all those really good teams sitting their quarterbacks, take a step back, make sure you're betting the right spot. I'll just say that walking in. It's a dangerous week.
Yeah. Proceed with caution. Evan, this is why we're doing this. It's a dangerous week. We should have brought our hard hats.
Now I'm nervous that Giffen gave out Carolina plus 5.5 so confidently.
Yeah, just it's a danger. I just want to set the table. Okay, so Brandon Anderson wrote an amazing article on Action Network, basically tying into playoff scenarios. So if the Eagles steal the NFC East crown, the scenario would be Eagles winning and Dallas losing. It's a plus 932 parlay, plus 932. So that's one scenario. These are basically playoff parlays. You can read the entire article on actionnetwork.com. Another one. Cowboys can clinch the NFC East with another Eagles loss. That's a 20-1 parlay. So that's an Eagles loss and a Cowboys loss. That's, obviously Washington winning that game at home. Another scenario, how about the Vikings sneaking into the playoffs? That's almost a 40-1 parlay. That would require Vikings W, Green Bay loss, Seahawks loss, and either a Bucks or a Saints loss. So those are some examples of just different ways to try to tie scenarios together, and just a fun kind of way to bet for the weekend. So you can check out that article on actionnetwork.com.
Yeah, Evan, I read the first half of it, and then I felt like I was studying for the LSATs. So it was.
Well, listen, week 18 is a different animal. This is going to be a little bit of studying. There's a little bit of math, maybe some English, some algebra, but we're going to get you to the finish line. We promise.
I mean, look, Brandon Anderson was in his bunker in North Dakota for like a week and a half. I mean, come on, this is what he does. You know, he comes up. This is where he gets his best brain power from the bunker.
He was crunching the numbers.
Yeah.
He called into our call for this article, and we couldn't even hear him. So he went on his own, went off on his own.
That's how I want my handicappers.
It's
in
perfect.
Bunkers. That's how I want them.
All right, so let's talk about contract incentives for a second. Koerner walked into this Lions den, and I'll just say this right away. A scary thing. So please be careful before placing any wagers. I know a lot of books don't even have props up yet. So fun information, a little bit of wagertainment. Maybe there is an angle or two here, but this is just a list. And again, we'll have this in my article on actionnetwork.com. We'll have a separate article as well. Just a list of all the players and kind of from offensive snaps to needing touchdowns to all sorts of different things. You know, Baker needing a win to make $1 million bonus. All that stuff's on there. OBJ and DeAndre Hopkins, probably the two biggest ones in terms of needing catches. OBJ needs 185 yards for $750K. And Koerner mentioned all the DeAndre Hopkins incentives. He needs yards, catches, and 2 touchdowns. He could make, almost 1.5, 1.6, even $2 million depending. So check out all the information out there. I don't want to completely bore you, but it's interesting entering the weekend, especially those games where maybe they don't need it as much. To me, if the team is motivated to win, they're not going to force a player to get an incentive. If anything, sometimes you might say, well, why does a team want to pay the player at all, right? Well, what about the incentive the other way? So just be careful with all this stuff, but it's on the site. Check it out.
Okay. I'm seeing some of the other names you have on here too, like Austin Eckler, who was garbage in the last month of the year. Okay. Very good.
There's going to be over 50 of these minimum. So there's a lot going on. So when the books start posting these props, maybe take a sheet one by one, make a few notes. It's going to move a lot. So there could be some value early and even some value late potentially on some unders. So just be careful.
And also, Evan, you plugged Brandon Anderson, and that was very nice of you, and all the people here do a wonderful job. But you yourself too publish what I call the NFL football Bible every single week with all the trends. It's my favorite read. It's the best thing, and it's an encyclopedia. It's a thesaurus. It's everything all in one. So you also do a tremendous job as well, and I appreciate the work you put into it, because that means all of us don't have to. So that's like the best part of the job.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This week has been the worst of the worst of the worst, and it is every year. It's a lot of work. It's a little bit of a grind just based off of quarterbacks, but it should be live by the morning, so enjoy. And then finally, we'll get into one more thing. It's win totals. Right now, 7 teams have their win totals in balance entering week 18. That would be Philly, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Denver, Seattle, Chicago, and Arizona. Probably my favorite's Arizona, trying to go over 4.5 after beating the Eagles last week. That would be a pretty bad beat. So 7 win totals, a little bit of fun there. All right, back to the brass. Trivia. Come on, Jets quarterbacks. What are we doing? Pick them out. Who's the last one?
I'm nervous how confident I think I am. And because I think, is it, Tim, do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
You can go, but I'll just say the math is, this would be 16 times. So it's 8 years ago. So
it's Mark Sanchez.
So the funny thing about it is Mark Sanchez, there's actually 2 quarterbacks to beat New England before Sanchez won his last game against New England.
You're right. 8 years. That would have been 12. Like, yeah, that was 12 years ago or whatever. Maybe 14 years ago when Sanchez beat the Patriots.
Oh, I thought I knew it.
Tim. Oh no, Tim. What do you got?
Yeah, I thought I knew it. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
That's the answer. Nailed it. Well done.
Perfect.
So Geno Smith was the other one. So it's Fitzpatrick did it most recently, then Geno, then Mark Sanchez.
Geno beat the Patriots. I didn't realize that.
But that is the order. So you guys, pretty much named them all. And he got Fitzpatrick, so well done. Regular season coming to a close.
The hard part about Fitzpatrick is not knowing what team he's on at that time.
Correct.
Exactly. I took a spin. Well,
it's remembering he was the Jets quarterback as well. That was a little hard, but nice job.
Yeah. How about that, Chad? How about that?
Good job. All right, Evan Abrams, great work. Again, keep an eye out for his article on actionnetwork.com, of course, in the free-to-download Action Network app for all of his insights on incentives and trends for Week 18. Evan, thanks for stopping by the show.
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Don't
friends,
forget,
happy
immediately following us here on Happy Hour is the Sunday six-pack with Raybon and Stuckey, NFL Week 18 best bets, and it's not the last one of the season. These guys go in the playoffs as well. You know, they exercise those handicapping muscles. You still got to fill the entire six-pack. So make sure you give, the YouTube a refresh, whatever it is, because they immediately follow us here. And we're lucky enough to talk to them right now. Beforehand, a little teaser. We welcome in Chris Raybon and Stuckey for Mixing a Water. You guys are nice enough to tweet out, what's your dumbest bet? What are you saying that makes you a little squeamish? Maybe that bet that you kind of want to take, but you're not sure. And we're going to tell you, or these guys are going to tell you if they need to mix in a water. Let's start with the Chicago Bears on the money line. They're getting 3 points at Green Bay. They're trying to play spoiler there. Green Bay owns tiebreakers over Seattle and New Orleans. So essentially winning in for Green Bay. Stuckey, Bears on the money line. Can they play spoiler?
Sure. I mean, yeah, this is a 3-point underdog. You don't need to mix in a water for betting this. I was thinking about betting the Bears, but I thought we would get a little better number. Usually these teams that need to win versus teams that are eliminated, they perform historically very poorly in Week 18. They have to play tighter. The team trying to play spoiler can play looser, usually get an inflated number. But, Bears have been surging of late. They've won, I think, 4 or 5. I think they're kind of near the top of the market. And I don't really think there's a ton of value here, but sure, the Bears could absolutely play spoiler. Their defense is playing a lot better. Stevenson and Johnson at corner. They added Sweat and, Fields playing for his job. And this is a team, look, it's their division rival. This is now their Super Bowl. They want to end their season. Although I would suggest maybe it's better for the Bears if they don't win this game. You don't guarantee a 4th place schedule, even better draft pick, even though you already have the 1. But yeah, the Bears could absolutely win this game. But I will say a couple things to watch here. Who's going to be healthy for the Packers at wide receiver? Right. Although it hasn't seemed to matter. Jordan Love, since week 12, highest graded passer in the NFL. Since November 1st, really, he's been on an absolute tear. I think 24 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 106 passer rating. So he's been rolling of late. I actually think the Packers are going to win this game, but I don't hate it. Whenever you want to take a shot on these eliminated teams, especially if this is only a 3-point underdog, go right ahead for it. Week 18 always gets super weird. We'll see if the Bears can finally beat the Packers too. They've lost a couple streaks on the line this week. Patriots have beat the Jets 15 times in a row. I think the Packers have beat the Bears 9 times in a row and 24 out of the last 27.
My goodness. Raybon, Stuckey mentioned the market's got a little sharper here on these must-win games. Obviously, you two have been doing this for a long time. Do you share a similar sentiment in that, maybe, I don't know, hoping to get a bigger number here? Does this person need to mix in a water with the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, line's about right, but no, they don't need to mix in a water. I mean, if the Packers with Aaron Rodgers can lose a win in your in game, they can surely do it with Love. Love is playing well, but as Stuckey said, division game. I think the Bears, with their defense playing well and with Justin Fields back, the Bears really aren't rated, at least in my power ratings, that much lower than the Packers, which is why you're seeing, this line kind of stuck at 3 here. So these are two fairly evenly matched teams. That I know it didn't start out that way this season, but you don't need to mix in a water at all. I still lean Packers winning. Like Stuck, I think Love is playing well. I think they're doing well with, their depth at wide receiver, regardless of who's playing. They seem to be balling. Aaron Jones is giving them a lift in the run game. But that Joe Barry defense at any given time could just strike. And, they did give up 30 to the Panthers. And I think that's what you're kind of hanging your hat on if you're betting Bears money line is, okay, this Packers defense, inconsistent, never really plays up to the talent level and has kind of been playing over its head with some of the guys in the secondary, really. So yeah, I think that's how you're going to get a Bears victory, is if that Packer defense lets them down.
Yeah. And right about your point, if you over past 10 games or so, and there's some bad defenses in the NFL right now, Arizona, Washington, the Packers, by some metrics, have been the worst defense in the NFL. If you remove 2 games, they played Brett Rippon and the Rams, and then last week they played Jaron Hall and the Vikings, and he was lost. So basically, you were down to bad backups and one just really inexperienced one. So if you remove those 2 games at home against backup quarterbacks, then the Packers defense has just been on a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. And the Bears haven't really played anybody either. I would argue back with that, but you could have got 3.5 earlier in the week. Let's go to this next one from Titus. He's got a money line parlay featuring a couple of teams in the NFC East. These 2 teams, the Commanders and the Giants, trying to cause a popsicle headache as it pertains to who wins the NFC East. And those 2 teams being Dallas and Philadelphia. Dallas right now is your 2 seed entering week 18 in the NFC. Philadelphia, your 5 seed. There's a scenario here for Dallas to get the 2 seed. They just have to win. They just have to beat the Commanders and they're fine. But if they don't win and the Commanders play upset, then that opens the door, Stuckey, for Philadelphia to possibly jump back up in the mix. The Lions are still in it. They need a lot to happen. The Lions need this to hit for Titus to get this rolling here. Does this Titus fella need to mix in a water with this NFC East basement money line parlay?
I would say no. I think both lines are inflated. So, and look, these are division rivals. These are 2 teams that will be playing their Super Bowls. I would say, you have to at least take a couple sips just for Washington. At first, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be, and Sam Howell's been lost of late. With Jacoby Brissett, I think you have a little better chance here. And the Cowboys just haven't been the same team on the road. And for what it's worth, last year, with a chance to win the division, they went up to Washington in week 18. Now, granted, they needed the Eagles to lose, so maybe I think the Eagles were also playing the Giants too. I think that maybe they were scoreboard watching or kind of knew that they didn't really have a chance, but they lost 26-6. Dak looked horrendous in that game. So we'll see if they actually learn from that, come out more focused here. I actually would prefer, if you're going to parlay them, I think that the Cowboys line is a bit overinflated, especially if Brissett goes. But if you're going to parlay these 2 games, I would parlay Dallas and the Giants. And, sometimes you can use these sequencing of what happens on this weekend to your advantage, because number one, the Eagles, I haven't checked for an update today, but Sirianni hinted at potentially sitting his starters. They know that the Cowboys are 2 touchdown favorites. You're in bad weather on a horrendous turf with major injury risk. So he could end up sitting some starters. They're also just a mess right now. But if the Cowboys are rolling and they're up big, then there's really no reason to risk injury with Hurts and some other guys on that surface, that treacherous surface. So then they might end up pulling guys even if they do play their starters. So you kind of have some correlation there between those 2 results. So I do think both lines are a little bit inflated, but there's not really, tying them together, but there's no real meaning there. But if you wanted to tie together Dallas and the Giants, I think there's some correlation you can work to your advantage.
Cowboys laying 13.5, Raybon. Philadelphia laying 5.5. So to Stuckey's idea, if you play the Cowboys on the money line and the Giants on the money line, you get plus 230. And if you go with Titus's idea, Commanders and Giants, to pay out of plus about 19-1. So where are you at on this? A couple sips was Stuckey's advice. How about you? Mixing a water for this idea?
Nah, I wouldn't say mixing a water here, because Stuckey hinted at it. This Cowboy team last year went to Washington and completely laid an egg. And, they have to prove that they can get up for a game like this when, it matters, but it doesn't matter. They're still going to be in the playoffs, obviously. They would love to get, an extra home game. But, the way they played against this Washington team last year has to give you pause, because Dak went 14-37 passing. That's absurd for any quarterback in the modern era. And 14-37 for 128 yards. And then they ran the ball 27 times for 64 yards. This team could do absolutely nothing against a terrible Washington team. last year when it needed to win. So I think the best play is probably Giants money line and then Commanders spread if you want to do it that way. Like I think just taking the Commander money line, if you think, Dallas is going to lay another egg, like I don't think you need to parlay it. I think you just want to get that value individually. And then maybe you if you're trying to increase your payout, then maybe you combine it. But if you like Washington, and I think that it's fair to say, hey, like make this Cowboy team prove it. Like the Washington money line is juicy enough as is. Like you don't really need to parlay it because like Stuckey said, the two dogs winning aren't really correlated. They're just kind of in the same division and kind of interesting. But I think definitely the Cowboys give me pause. So I wouldn't be confident in their money line. So don't mix in the water, but don't just parlay them and not bet them individually if you're going to go that route.
Okay. Commanders spread, Giants money line, payout is about plus 450. So
there you go. And also, just it's got like a college football feel to it. Like don't stub your toe to a rival, and also like these teams got to be feeling good about themselves going into the playoffs. It'd be nice for them to end the season on a positive note heading into the postseason. All right. We got this one here from Jimbo Do the Limbo. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers money line, they're 5-point favorites over Carolina, and also Indianapolis +7 in a parlay here. But hold on. The scenario here is to then use those profits and roll them over for live betting the Bills on the money line when Josh Allen inevitably turns the ball over. All this correlation we're talking about, not really sure how NFC correlates with the Buffalo Bills here, but I guess we'll start off here. Stuckey, Bucks money line, Indy +7. That line, Indy and Houston has done quite a bit of hopscotch over the last couple of days, -1, +1, back and forth. Mix in a water for this fellow Jimbo. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Needs to sober up here. But we're buying points to 7, I think.
Yes.
So yeah, and I actually like the Panthers. Panthers fit that classic role of the team that's eliminated playing a team that's either win and get in or go home. They're playing their division rival. It's been a just joyless year for the Panthers. Now this is their Super Bowl at home. They have covered 3 straight at home. The Bucks have been one of the luckiest teams in the NFL. Shout out to Nick Giffen, Sean Koerner and company. I think on our updated luck rankings, Panthers are dead last, and the Bucks are in the top 5. Baker Mayfield's had a good year, but we saw him crash back down to earth. A lot of advanced metrics suggest he has even more crashing to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a few key mistakes here against the now healthy Carolina secondary. And this is a pretty good matchup for the Panthers. They have the worst run defense in the NFL. Bucks have a wildly inefficient run game. So that gives them a chance here. This line's, I think these two teams met earlier this month, and the line was closed 3.5 in Tampa, and Tampa won by 3.
That's when it poured out. It was pouring rain in Tampa.
Yeah. So this line is inflated given the situation. So I like Carolina. I think the NFC South's going to get weird. I think Carolina actually pulls off the upset. So no, yeah, mix in a water. This is ridiculous.
It's my bad. I'm muted over here. You don't have to convince me of getting a little crazy with betting the Carolina Panthers. It's like the most, I keep going back to it everywhere. It's like the most disgusting fun thing. They're one of those teams that you can't quit them every single week. Raybon, you've been on the Panthers a little bit this season, especially late. What say you about this?
Yeah, this is mixing of water. Number one, because the parlay just makes no sense. Like Bucks money line, Indy +7. Like, what do those two things have to do with each other? Second of all, Stuckey laid out, I guess the only case, well, let's go bet by bet. I guess the only case for betting the Bucks money line would be these teams that need to win going against teams that have nothing to play for. They don't cover often. So I get if you're thinking, hey, maybe the Bucks pull it out, but it's not, they're not going to win by margin, but you're playing with fire there because you're talking about, a few points, 5 points. That could easily just more likely than not, if they don't cover, they're probably losing. So don't like that one. And then Indy +7, don't like that one either. If you like Indy, just take Indy. I mean, like, why are we buying 7 when this Indy team, 5 of its 7 losses are by, more than that. And this Indy team, when they lose, like they could lose big to anyone. I mean, they got beat by 19 by the Falcons. They got beat by 11 by what was it? The Saints and Derek Carr. So this
or just go tease it, right, Raybon? If you're buying up to 7, go tease it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what you're doing, but like, I don't like teasing it either, because you're going from.
Yeah, you're not getting over 7. If this line gets to 1.5, and then there's some other good teaser options out there that are with lines that are 2.5, then you can consider doing this. But yeah, buying it to 7 and combining it with the Bucks money line. No.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense individually or correlated. And like in the last 4 weeks, the Colts have lost by 20 to Jake Browning and 19 to Desmond Ridder. So
when it rains,
Heineke. Sorry, Heineke. So like, yeah, this team now they got to go up against CJ Stroud. Like, if Houston wins, it's very possible Houston wins by margin. Bucks, I think the Panthers are the right side on that one. So yeah, mixing the water.
Jimbo just wants to stitch together a full 24 hours. Saturday night game, then the Bucks and the Panthers, and then he wants something to work with for the Bills-Dolphins game on Sunday night. That's what that feels like to me.
Just keep rolling over the profits every day until you're out of money.
Yeah, a proposition like that too. Our last mix in the water of happy hour. We've been here 18 weeks, and this is what we're coming up with. I mean, has anyone learned a damn thing on this show?
Bills futures. Hopefully people learn to grab those.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
It's true. All right, Chris Raybon.
They could be in the trash by the end of the weekend. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed.
Wouldn't want it any other way, though. Wouldn't want it any other way.
Hey, they're in it. Chris Raybon, Stuckey, Sunday 6-pack, coming up next on the Action Network YouTube channel. Fellas, thank you very much, as always.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
And as Tim said, the Sunday 6-pack will exist during the postseason, so have no fear. Those guys will come up with something. All right, Tim, that was a lot of fun, man. 18 weeks. Flew by. I really thought throughout the course of the year, I felt like I got smarter. I hope the audience did too.
Yeah, we brought the education level up. I feel like we bumped it up as we went on here to, some more advanced learning and still, enough baseline things in there. And hopefully it was something for everybody. I know that I basically already feel a hangover from this happy hour, from all the scenarios and whatnot, just a giant popsicle headache. So, us Clash for this show, we're a win and get in for the playoffs too. Hang tight, turn your notifications on, and if you'll see us next week. But regardless, it's been a tremendous year so far, Glash. Always happy to be with you. Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, I think you've said this numerous times off the air in our discussions throughout the week, and then when we get together on Wednesdays to get ready for the show. This is of course, folks want picks. Understandably, we've got the best experts that we have that come on the show in Stuckey, Raybon, Koerner, Nick Giffen, Evan Abrams, who breaks down all the data. Education, I think, is the key to this show too. So that was good. All right, very good. Download the free award-winning Action Network app. As Tim said, you want to also subscribe to our YouTube channel when we go live in the app and on YouTube, so you get the latest content from the folks over at Action Network. Thanks to our hardworking production team behind the scenes all season long. For Tim Kalinowski, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for watching Happy Hour, presented by Bet365. Best of luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.